Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to record this ahead of time. My daughter on the 4th of May is opening her coffee trailer, and it's been a year of work. She decided to open it on her birthday, so that's on the 4th. And I just know that the whole family is going to be pulled into service, and Mom, I need some extra milk, and Dad, go and get ice. And we've got family flying in to town. So it's a huge week preparation up to the event. And then, of course, prayerfully a wonderful, wonderful opening day and weekend. So I was grateful that I could record this under these very unusual circumstances. So I want to talk about the mind-body connection. My husband and I have recently begun rewatching Frasier. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that show. Kelsey Grammer is, of course, the radio host of the Frasier Crane Show, and he runs the gamut of emotions. I find it hilarious. We're always trying to end the evening on a light note with shared laughter. It helps to ease away the stress or any tensions of the day. And then, of course, placing your fingertips along the hairline, like this, is also a wonderful way of pressing on those pressure points and just releasing any tension that is built up there. But I wasn't always aware of the importance of balancing emotions. Now, I'm deep into my 50s, and I wasn't raised like that at all. In those days, well, certainly not in South Africa, we were never really nurtured along the way of, our emotions. You just got on with life. But a lot of my story and where I am today really came to be out of something that at the time was a horrible time in our life. About 10 years ago, my husband became very, very ill. He was weeks away from dying, we thought. It was almost like an autoimmune issue. And well, that's what we were told at the time. And he is a tall, slim man, lost 45 pounds. This extended over 18 months. We did whatever we could. And it was really, really hard. He could only lie on cotton sheets. He was sent home from work. They said, you can't work. He tried to work from home. And then they graciously gave him 6 weeks off and said, you know what? Take all the pressure off. Go home. Get well, and then come back. But we need to know that you're being active about getting well, and we want you to go to the Mayo Clinic. Well, we'd never done anything medical in our whole lives. So certainly not in the last 35 years. So this was like telling a vegetarian to go and eat beef for the weekend. It just didn't sit well with me at all. And I also wasn't even sure that he would be strong enough to withstand all those tests. So someone did suggest a functional medicine doctor, and I said, okay, that will do. So I took my husband to him, and the doctor said to me, Tanya, I really think this method I've just learned, it was a Monday morning. I'd just come back last night from a weekend seminar. I think this is perfect for your husband. But he said, I'm so brand new. I could never take on a case as complicated as this. So he said, why don't you contact the developer of this technique and go and make an appointment with him? So I did exactly that. We got in the car, loaded up my husband, and we drove about 6 hours out of state to this doctor. We were going to get the last appointment of his day and then the first appointment the next morning before traveling home. So the first appointment, excuse me, the first appointment, I said to my husband afterwards, how do you feel? He said, I don't even know what he did. He did nothing. My husband is a very A-type personality, CEO, military person, pilot. He doesn't go for any woo-woo stuff, as he used to call it. And as far as he's concerned, this doctor did nothing. Anyway, what the doctor did say was, go home tonight. It's got nothing to do, go to the hotel tonight. It's got nothing to do with food. Go and eat whatever you feel like eating. This was fantastic for my husband because he'd been limited to about 4 oven roasted vegetables, only water, no seasonings. It was just really hard. Anyway, he orders liver and onions and potatoes, mashed potatoes. So I don't think that would be my meal that I would have enjoyed, but that's exactly what he felt like. Just the psychological relief as he was eating something that tasted really good. The hotel had a lovely dining room, was wonderful to see in itself. Anyway, the next morning we had our first appointment. And again, I just didn't even know what he was doing. He was just speaking, and not even to my husband. He was just speaking and doing some things on the computer, and then said, okay, you're ready, off you go. Well, we had 6 hours drive home, and I said to my husband, plenty of time to talk. How do you feel any different? It was expensive for us as well. And he said, strangely enough, I do feel a little different, but I'm not sure how. I can't even describe it. But that's all he was giving it credit for. We set up he didn't have any other options. So we set up 2 appointments every week for the next, he did 24 all in all. And slowly, like a bud, just opening up like that, my husband just got well. No fanfare, no big drum roll, no major change after each session, but just a slow balancing. And there he was, as if he had never been sick before, gained his weight, back at work, and this was 10 years ago. So, but during this process, I was completely intrigued. How could that have even happened? What happened? Anyway, so I started to really delve into energy work. And we've been very familiar with homeopathy. 35 years I've been taking homeopathy under the guidance of a wonderful classic homeopath. She was deep in her 80s. She has looked after my family and our children for all their life. And even as we've traveled to 9 different countries, she was a phone call away. I had my little kit with me, and she had really helped me to be their doctor as they were growing up. So I was familiar with homeopathy, and I was speaking to her throughout this whole process, and she said, Tanya, what do you think homeopathy is? Energy work. There's the energy, the frequencies that are in those little white sugar pills. And the penny dropped. Energy is so fundamental to life. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir, maybe all of you absolutely know that to one degree or another, but I'm just really sharing my walk. Everything is energy. Everything is resonating with a particular frequency. My desk, me, the sun, the grass, a stone, food. Everything is resonating with its particular frequency. And energy has weight. Not too many people think about that. We consider our English vernacular. We talk about feeling weighed down or heavy, depressed, low, carrying something heavy, the weight of the world on our shoulders, a millstone around our neck. Those are describing the feelings we feel with those emotions. And then, of course, the contrast is true. When emotions are released from our mind body, we'll say, oh, I feel so buoyant, I feel light as a feather, airy, relieved, free. I feel like a butterfly, joyous. Those are light. They're higher up the scale of those frequencies. Here you got the lowest one is shame, and the highest is love. And everything, all those emotions have their place in that hierarchy. So when we drop away those low ones, we raise our high vibration. In fact, science now has instruments that can actually measure the circumference of an emotion. It's about the size of a softball, and every emotion resonates differently. And it's so true. You know, we see we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So that's just another perspective. For example, if say there's a whole lot of cars driving down the highway, there's a lady behind me in a car, I'm in the one in front, and there's a huge accident we both see happen. And it's like that ball of shock travels and hits us. You can feel it. I'm sure you've all experienced that feeling of, oh my goodness, that was a close one. And you know, everyone who saw it, so the lady behind me as well, felt that as well. And then, of course, all the drama and the people running around and, you know, the ambulance is coming. It's a scary situation to have observed. Anyway, I now feeling very emotionally sound. My life is good. There's harmony, good support system. I'll come home and, you know, maybe my heart rate's still going, or I'm very concerned about them, sad about the situation, all those emotions that naturally come up. But I start cooking the supper meal and, you know, cleaning up and getting things ready. And by the time the family sits down for the evening meal, I can tell them about what happened without any emotional charge being there. I can just relay it as a sequence of events, some facts that happened, and maybe we'll all feel, oh, that's so terrible, and you know, you feel the emotion of the moment, but there's none of that deep trauma within me. Well, now the lady that was behind me in the car, perhaps she lost a family member in a car accident at some point. Perhaps her life is not going well. So when she feels that shock coming in and resonating in her, it stays there. It anchors within, in an organ, in a part of her body, and that just adds to it all. It's just another layer of heaviness or trauma that is just establishing itself in her body. Each emotion produces a specific effect on our mind-body system. You know, depression can reduce the function of your immune system. Anger may reduce the blood flow to internal organs, increase the blood flow to the muscles. So the emotions have an effect on us. Don't just poo-poo them. I remember one day I was washing dishes. I wash dishes every day, but this particular day, my husband and I had an argument about something, and I was still riled up. So now I'm washing dishes and I'm reliving the argument. I'm thinking he always does this, and I hate it when he does that. And you know, I'd be better off if we weren't together. And you know, that kind of, I'm sure some of you at least will relate to. You kind of get in a real bad place inside. Anyway, I started to become aware quite quickly of a horrible tightness in my stomach. I don't often feel those effects easily, but I started to feel like almost sick. And sick at just hearing myself. I thought, this is dreadful. Like, I'm doing this to myself. My husband's not standing there having this argument with me now. I'm actually making myself sick now. I wasn't sick 5 minutes ago when I was just making a cup of tea or doing something, but it's as I'm reliving something that maybe happened early on the day, I've created this feeling within me. And the penny dropped again. I have some control over how I feel. Now, life would be pretty bland without emotions. I mean, even though there are some bad ones, or some ones that are not pleasant to experience, we can all agree if we didn't have emotions at all, life would be pretty bland. They add color to our life. There are no real good or bad emotions, just the ones that are appropriate for our situation. Problems occur when the emotion we are feeling becomes inappropriate, untimely, or pathophysiologically anchored, causing you to live in the past or in the future. It keeps you from being present in the moment. The ones that concern us are not the ones that we feel. Anger is appropriate in its time. There's nothing wrong with getting angry with about something. Jealous, irritable, those can be processed in a healthy way. The ones that concern us are those outdated emotions, which have become pathological in that they're unexpressed or anchored in your body. They are physiologically anchored within you and probably causing disturbance in your energetic system. Got a frog in my throat this morning. And then, of course, when the emotions pass from the conscious into the subconscious, they stay there in your body. You're not even aware of them anymore, but they're stored in various parts of your body. And I want to tell you a story I was very grateful I had these two experiences that I'll share with you. I had a woman come to see me, and she had her issues resolved and has brought some of her children to see me as well over the years. Anyway, she calls me out of the blue one day and she said, "Tanya, can you help my husband?" She said he has got an underlying layer of sadness in his life. We're happy, we have a good family, a big support system, but when he's not thinking about it, he kind of slips into a sad place. And it comes out that when he was 6 years old, his brother was 4, his mom left them. So it was just him, his brother, and his father for the rest of his growing up years. And he has been so heartsore, is what he said, heartsore since then. Anyway, this man comes in to see me, and he lies on the massage table there. I cover him with a weighted blanket, and I do my treatment. I was about 90% finished when he suddenly sits bolt upright. I mean, he must have had a set of abs on him because there wasn't any wrangling up. He sat straight up and he said, "It's gone." And I whipped around and I said, "What?" I mean, I was so deep in the session, so very present with what was happening, that gave me a fright. And he said, "I felt it leave. It's gone." So I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, "Well, just give me a few moments." And I finished the session. And then he got up and he was putting on his shoes. And he rolls his right shoulder like this and he says, "Oh, that feels so good. It's not sore anymore." And I said, "Well, what was wrong with your shoulder?" Like, he didn't mention his shoulder to me. And then he tells me that his job, he works in an abattoir, and he hauls those big beef up on the hooks. And then his job is to operate a air knife and separate the hide from the flesh. And it's very exacting work, almost danger pay, because you could take your hand off before you even knew what was happening. But it's a good paying job. because of the risks, I'm sure. And he could never afford to walk away from that job just because he was in pain. He had a family, a big family. I think it was he's an Hispanic man, and quite a big family that I think he provides for. And so he just muscles through. But he said when that heartache left, his whole shoulder freed up. And I've seen his wife in a few times since then. She occasionally brings her children for something. And I often ask about him, and she said, Tanya, that has never returned. It has made such a difference to him. So why that stored emotion at a time where he probably didn't know how to process it in a healthy way, why it affected his shoulder, who knows, except that it's gone. Then the other experience I had, and I'm so grateful for these, what I call them one and dones, because they're so encouraging. You know, when I'm working with someone and they've had their 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 12th appointment, it's like you think, oh my goodness, does this stuff even work? And then I mean, it does eventually when enough healing momentum has built up, because you don't know how deep that hole is. But when you have stories like this, it's like, oh, that is so encouraging for me as well to hear. And of course, I'm delighted for the people who have that issue resolved so quickly. But the other was a woman, one of our neighbors who knows what I do, got hold of me and said that her mom was coming into town and her husband had passed away. And since then, the mother always walks like this. She walks, funny that these are both heart issues, walks like this. And she's never got over the death of her husband. So I said, sure. So she comes, she sits here, and she says to me, Tanya, we had such a wonderful marriage, and I miss him so much. She said, I was with him when he died. And she said she had her hand on his chest because he was lying in a bed, and she was sitting on the chair next to him. She had a hand on his chest, and they were exchanging probably the last loving words they would ever speak to each other on this earth. And she said, as he passed, I felt him move up, his spirit move up my arm and settle into my chest, over his chest. Now, that's not how I believe things to be, but who cares? This is not my experience. That's what she was telling me. She said, I feel a weight. That's right. It was a weight in her chest. And she said, I always hold my chest. And indeed, she had been doing that. I noticed it. So anyway, I lie her down, get her comfortable, and then start doing her session. Well, when it's finished, she sits up, not quite as perky as the man, but she sits up and she says, oh, that feels so good. Now, usually people do feel peaceful and relaxed after a session with me, but this was more so. She said, Tanya, that weight has completely gone. She said, I feel so good. So anyway, thrilled for her. She's visiting, she's just in town for the weekend, and then she'll be going. So I feel so glad that she feels better. Anyway, I see her out the front door. I've just come to sit down to do the report so that I can send it to her, and the doorbell rings. So I get up, and as I open the door, she says, I need sunglasses. So I thought maybe she's forgotten them. So I turn around. She said, no, I didn't bring any. She said, I didn't tell you that since my husband passed, and I can't really remember now how long it was, but it was more than a year for sure. I'm thinking maybe 2 years. She said, since my husband passed, I can't see color and everything is gray. She said, now I walk outside and she said, it is so bright, I feel like I need my sunglasses again. So, I mean, that was just, I was thrilled for her, gave her a hug. She went off so happily. And I sat down, I thought, what the heck happened? Anyway, that was just another fun story. But, you know, we experience emotions on this earth, and we shouldn't be afraid of them because they're not all going to anchor inside of us. We need to learn ways to express them in a healthy way. You know, the exuberant expression, or clapping, shouting, laughing, even watching a funny movie. When you do something silly and you feel momentary shame, and then a good-natured friend starts laughing, and you realize how ridiculous it is, and you start laughing, and then they laugh because you're laughing, or singing. You know, those are wonderful, expressive ways to process those emotions. Or just talking about what you're experiencing. A lot of people don't have those quality relationships. Develop them. They're worth it. Or maybe exercise, going for a run, clears your head, or working out at the gym, doing your favorite activity, or meditation, prayer. Maybe you're more the type of quiet reflection, but make it intentionally about processing it, not being quiet, washing the dishes, getting all angry and riled up like I did. Tapping is another one. I don't personally do that, but I know it's wonderfully beneficial for a lot of people. Yoga, journaling, maybe just the process of giving your emotions an outlet by writing them in a journal, or a cleansing and honest conversation with a loved one, or perhaps the person you've got an issue with. Or just being out in nature. It's grounding. You know, you've just got the frequencies of nature all around you that just bring that equilibrium and balance again. It's really beneficial for us to create strategies to become more mindful, so that we can live in the present. So our emotions and the physiology of these emotions are appropriate to the present moment. It's called the generous present moment for that purpose. It's there that you heal. It's that moment that you have. And you can become deeply peaceful and calm, centered, grounded. I have all of those emotions, but because I'm grounded and balanced, I can handle that. I can take a windstorm. You know, I can be blown like this because I come right back there again. And surely we want to transform in this life. And our minds play a large part in that. Maybe we come alongside our children and take our ego out of it, you know, not being the big parent that's got it all together and talks down at the child, but teaching them how to identify their emotions, to say, well, what are you feeling now? Mad. Well, where do you feel it? Do you feel it in your head? Do you feel it in your throat? Are you tense here? Do you feel it in your chest? Do you feel it in your stomach? Is it a tightness? Is it a nausea? To help them process what they're feeling, to take a nice deep breath in, breath out, and to think about it, to lend another perspective on it. Yes, they did that to you and that hurt you, but do you think they're really meant to do that? Do you think that they were hurting themselves? Maybe this is the only way they, you know, retaliated. To kind of help your children to know how to process their emotions in a healthy way. Model how to do that for your children. When you mess up, say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I handled that incorrectly. Can I hug you? Can I say sorry? And you teaching them how to to be with other people and how to act when they themselves mess up, and to know that it's okay. You know, you make reparations, you say sorry. A lot of people are fine to forgive other people, although I'm hoping they really are, and it's not just a building resentment or bitterness that's growing inside. But sometimes we are less inclined to forgive ourselves. So I think that is a very important one, to know that we are human and to extend the same forgiveness to other people as we to ourselves as we forgive other people. So to Jess, Nicole, and Jordan, I'm very grateful to be a part of Fifth Element. And I thank you for your role in helping people like me fulfill our purpose to do our part in healing in our little corner of the world, in our sphere of influence. And to end, I'll quote the esteemed Dr. Fraser Crane. I wish you all good mental health. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.